4.7 million years ago, what would it take to survive? Welcome back, everyone, to another episode. So today, we're going way back in time to see what it would take to survive 4.7 million years ago. This is a really long time before the first humans came around. The modern human didn't exist yet, but our ancestors were alive and well at this point. There were also a ton of other creatures that inhabited the Earth at this time. And since we're gonna be talking about a few of those later on, I think it's time we get started. The year is 4,700,000 BC. You have just woken up. Where are you? If you answered anywhere on the planet, you would be correct. So let's talk about where this place would be. First off, this time period we're talking about today occurred during the Pliocene epoch, which began roughly 5 million years ago and lasted until about 2 million years ago. During this time, the Earth was much warmer than it is now. Most of Europe and North America were actually covered in grasslands and woodlands. That means no giant ice sheets and no glaciers. The climate was quite comfortable, actually, and even habitable for most of us today, although there would be some animals and plants that we would find quite strange. But nonetheless, it would not be difficult to survive here because of the lack of harsh weather. You would probably want to stay close to the equator, since that is where most of the action is and there's lots of food to go around. Now let's talk about what kind of people existed at this time. And as far as humans go, we were pretty primitive. But one of our more notable ancestors that lived in Africa was Australopithecus annamensis. This species first appeared in the fossil record about 4.4 million years ago. We don't know too much about them, but they had a brain size of about 380 to 430 cubic centimeters, which is small compared to ours. But they were fully bipedal and walked upright just like us. They weren't great at climbing anymore, but they were much better at walking long distances on 2 legs rather than 4. Their teeth suggest that they mostly ate plants, and they likely spent a lot of time looking for food. These guys were definitely not hunter-gatherers. In fact, they didn't even hunt at all. But if they did eat meat, it would have been by scavenging carcasses and then eating what they found. They most likely moved around in groups of about 20 or so individuals, which would have made traveling easier, especially when you're constantly hungry and looking for food. Living in a group would have helped them defend themselves against predators, but it would have also meant sharing their food. Our ancestors were smart, though. They knew how to use sticks, stones, and other natural objects as rudimentary tools to help gather food or defend themselves from predators. They may have even used weapons like spears to hunt down animals, but again, we're not sure about this. They probably slept in trees or in caves at night to avoid nocturnal predators. They wouldn't have built shelters or anything like that, but they would have used what nature provided. Cooperation within the group would have been necessary for all of these things to happen. Hunting, defending, gathering food, raising young. All of these activities would have required them to work together. Working together would have been vital to surviving in this environment. But what about the other creatures around? What other humans and animals existed at the same time? Well, as mentioned before, the Earth was much warmer. So many of the animals we think of as tropical or jungle animals roamed much of the land masses. It wasn't impossible to find elephants, giraffes, or crocodiles in northern Canada or Alaska. Now, I said we would be talking about some of the animals and creatures that existed at this time, but I lied. I think we should leave that for another episode. There are some really cool things happening in the world of animals right now, and we should do an episode dedicated to it. Anyway, let's get back to the topic at hand. In addition to our ape-like ancestors, there were other primates roaming around, such as Proconsul. This guy was huge, standing about 6 feet tall and weighing over 500 pounds. They resembled a gorilla or a chimpanzee, and they most likely spent their days in the trees looking for fruit and other vegetation. Even though they were around our size, they couldn't walk upright like us. They still had tails, and their hands and feet were more suited for climbing than walking. Another primate called Kenyanthropus platypus also existed at this time. Not much is known about them except that they were a biped, which means they walked upright on two legs. Their brain size was slightly larger than that of Australopithecus afarensis, which means they may have been smarter than our direct ancestors. But unfortunately, we don't have a lot of information about them. Maybe in the future we will learn more about these mysterious creatures. Another animal that existed at this time was Helatherium. This mammal looked like a mix between a bear and a rhino and stood about 6 feet tall. It weighed nearly 3 tons and had hooves like a horse. They grazed on plants and were most active during the day. Helorium was a very successful creature, and fossils have been found all over Europe, Asia, and Africa. They were the largest land mammal for over 10 million years and only went extinct about 7 million years ago. So, if you were around during this time, you probably saw a lot of these guys. Speaking of size, there was also the giant short-faced kangaroo rat. This animal was absolutely massive, reaching heights of over 5 feet and weighing around 100 pounds. That's about the size of a small horse. They lived in Australia and were most likely plant eaters. But their huge size meant they were probably pretty good at defending themselves against predators. And speaking of predators, there was the hypercarnivore. No, this isn't some new diet plan. It's actually a saber-toothed cat that lived in Africa. It was about the size of a tiger and hunted large mammals such as buffalo, giraffe, and elephant. They died out about 3 million years ago, but they were around during our time period and were probably pretty scary to come across. As you can see, there were all kinds of weird, wild animals during this time, and we could go on and on about them. But the truth is we do and really need to know much more about them to understand how you could survive 4.7 million years ago. Foraging for plants and nuts would have been a good way to get sustenance. But if you wanted to eat meat, you would have to either hunt or scavenge. Scavenging would be risky because you would be competing with hyenas, vultures, and other predators. And hunting would be dangerous because you would have to work together to bring down a meal. Either way, there would be enough food to go around, but you would have to work hard for it. Shelter would not have been much of a problem. Caves would have been widely available, and you could have easily made a shelter out of branches and leaves. Fire would have been useful at this time, but we don't know if it had been invented yet. But if you could make fire, you would have an easier time cooking your food and keeping warm at night. Weapons would have been necessary to defend yourself from predators, but sticks and stones would have been enough to keep you safe. You would want to live in a group so you could protect each other and share food. And you would need to be strong and agile to survive the dangerous world around you. Now, if you were a member of the genus Homo, meaning you were a member of our species, things would be a little bit easier for you. Humans are bigger and smarter than our ancestors, and we have a natural curiosity and desire to explore the world around us. With our advanced cognitive abilities, we would have been able to come up with more creative solutions to the problems we faced. We could have created more sophisticated tools and weapons and developed more complex social structures. We would have also been able to adapt to different environments more easily and could have spread out over a wider area. Overall, it would have been easier for us to survive 4.7 million years ago than our ape-like ancestors, but it would still have been challenging. So what do you think? Could you survive 4.7 million years ago? Let us know in the comments below. Also, don't forget to subscribe for more great videos about the history of life on Earth. We're always coming out with new material, so be sure to stay tuned for more information. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you next time.